Welcome back to another episode of the Chicagolandians, a casual sports podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Cunningham, joined as always by my co-host, Connor Cunningham.
We're two brothers from the Chicagoland area who love exploring every corner of the sports world. Each week, we break down sports stories, ideas, and theories in a way that's simple and fun.
Whether you're a lifelong fan or just curious about the game, there's something here for everyone.
Welcome back to another episode of the Chicagolandians Casual Chicago Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Connor Cunningham, joined as always by Patrick Cunningham.
Hello.
Pat, I'm going to kick it off to you. How you doing, man? We got a nice Tuesday evening ahead of us. How's it going for you?
I'm doing great. Today's been a great Tuesday. Nothing too exciting today. Didn't actually have a run today, which is very nice. Got some very valuable rest. Went on a nice excursion with you to go get some new golf clubs from a Facebook Marketplace purchase, and neither of us were stabbed. So, put that as a win.
That's crazy you say that. No murder, even though it was a killer deal.
True.
Based on myself. Holy cow.
But yeah, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. As you mentioned, really excited about that deal. Got some nice golf clubs and a golf bag and some golf balls. I was really inspired by the Masters, and some might say this was an impulse purchase, but I would say no, this is a lifelong passion that I am developing right now. And we can kick it off into the news, because that's going to kind of segue. First bit of news we have here is golf. And now I know what you're saying, Chicagolandians podcast, not really a golf podcast. Well, we don't care. We watched about 12 hours of golf this weekend, so we're going to talk about it. Rory McIlroy wins the 2025 Masters to complete the career Grand Slam. It's all anybody could talk about throughout the whole broadcast. Joins only 5 other golfers to ever complete the Grand Slam. Also his first major championship since 2014. And he won the PGA Championship back then. Huge major drought, 11-year major drought for Rory McIlroy. And this was actually the 11th time that he tried to complete the career Grand Slam. Took 11 tries, and then he was able to do it. They said Tiger Woods did it in his first. So really to have those two monkeys on your back of 11-year drought and 11 attempts at Grand Slams must feel pretty good to be Rory McIlroy right now. But man, this Masters was crazy to watch. It felt like every shot in the last 9, it was just like, all right, Rory setting up well for a clutch shot. And probably on 3 separate times, Rory did the least clutch thing that he could do. Hitting it into the water, or missing an eagle putt, or missing that last putt to send it into the playoff match, right? But I mean, it makes for good television. The Masters, I really enjoyed watching it. Pat, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I had a fantastic time this weekend. This was honestly the first time I think I've ever really been invested in a Masters championship. Usually when I was younger, my parents and siblings would watch this, and I knew next to nothing about golf. But ironically, playing a lot of Frisbee golf has given me a lot of the needed kind of knowledge of how the game of golf works, and helps making it watch it a little easier. Also helped to have 2 great roommates that were very, very invested in the Masters as well, could kind of guide me through what was going on. But Rory, how about Rory, man? Absolute roller coaster of a tournament. Starts off, I believe on Thursday, was -4 going into, I believe, the last 2 holes, and then double bogeyed both holes to get to even. Then rattles off on Friday, gets back to under 6, extends his lead to -12 on Saturday. Bryson has a birdie on the 18th, I think, to bring himself to -10 within 2 strokes. So they're in the final matchup together heading into Sunday. Rory bogeys the first hole, I think, or maybe double bogeys. Something happens and Bryson birdies, and it's a 1-point swing. So then Bryson's in the lead at the start. But then right after that, Rory
Snip, snap.
Got it under control and held the lead for most of the rest of the day. And I remember, I think around the 12th or 13th hole, and Roy had like a 4-stroke lead over, I believe at that time it was Rose. It might have been Bryson still. I think Sam said, guys, I think Roy's actually going to do it without knocking on wood. And then right after that, Rory said, all right, boys, I got you.
Splish splash.
Here we go. Take a little dip in the water. And yeah, it was so fun to watch. Really got me excited in golf, invested. Makes me want to buy some sticks myself and learn the game.
Congrats to Rory. Welcome on the pod at any time. Excited to check in 2 months to see if I've continued playing golf, or either of us are still playing golf, or if these golf clubs have found a different part of my apartment to occupy instead of the back of my car. All right, now moving on to another exciting event. I don't know if you guys know, but yesterday for us, 2 days ago for you guys was the WNBA draft. Chicago hometown team, the Chicago Sky, had 2 picks in the first round, the number 10 and the number 11. We took some exciting players with both of those picks. The first player with the 10th pick, we drafted Asha Sivka, Slovenian basketball player, 6'4" forward. And with the 11th pick, we drafted Haley Van Lith, a 5'9" point guard from TCU. Sivka led the Slovenian U18 team to a FIBA championship last year. She averaged 16 points, 9.5 rebounds, and 2.5 steals, and was named the tournament MVP. And Van Lith, she's probably the more notable player of the two. She played for 3 collegiate teams while in college. She played for Louisville, then LSU, and then TCU. With LSU, she played with Angel Reese, so kind of a reunion there. But for her 5th season was really impactful for her draft stock, especially her tournament appearance, and her performance in the tournament really helped the draft stock and turn her into a first-round talent. Last season, she averaged 17.9, 18, we'll call it 18 points, 5.5 assists, and 4.5 rebounds. And she's reuniting with the Bayou Barbie, the 2 LSU teammates. Exciting 2 picks for the Chicago Sky. Pat, just quick thoughts. What were your grades? What grades do you have here?
I was excited. I will say Haley Van Lith, 17.9 points per game, and she averaged, I think, 18 in Louisville. She's a baller. She really can hoop. Now, do you know, Connor, who Haley's famous boyfriend is? Do you know of this person?
I do. It is Jalen Suggs.
It is Jalen Suggs of the Orlando Magic, who just had a dominant victory over the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Now, what do you think of the odds if we get Haley Van Lith in Chicago that the Chicago Bulls could somehow swing Jalen Suggs in the next coming years? Do you think that's likely, unlikely? What do you put those odds at?
I think that's kind of adjacent to us trading for Bronny James as a roundabout way to get LeBron, but greater than 0 maybe? I think maybe it's something they talk about. You know, Orlando and Chicago, quite far apart from each other. You know, it's closer to each other. Chicago. What about that?
Hey, if the Bucks could sign Giannis's brother to keep Giannis there, why can't a different professional team draft the girlfriend of the guy to maybe convince him to come over?
Well, that would be interesting if the Bulls signed Thanasis to try to get Giannis. That would be interesting to see if you could go the other way. You know, really see how much they love each other, am I right?
True. Very true.
Moving on to some men's basketball, we have some Illinois basketball news. Kasparas Yakachonis and Will Riley have both declared for the NBA draft. Kasparas, projected lottery pick. Believe it or not, as frustrated as you get about this guy watching him every game he plays, he is a projected lottery pick. He was a Big Ten All-Freshman team member and led Illinois with 15 points, 5 assists, and 6 rebounds per game. Riley, he was the 6th man of the year, Big Ten 6th man of the year, although he was eventually a starter towards the end of the year and had some good tournament success besides disappearing in the Kentucky game. But he is also a projected first-round pick. He averaged 12.5 points and 4 rebounds for the University of Illinois. Riley thanked Coach Underwood and his teammates on social media. He said this is one of the greatest experiences of his life playing for Illinois basketball. Now, Riley is 18 years old, so he is a young guy, but this is really interesting, though, because means now only 2 of the 5 starters that we will have will be returning, right? So Kylan Boswell and Tomislav Ivicic. Now, I would point out that this is actually more starters than we had return last year, and actually more players that we had return last year, right? Last year, we only had DJL return, right?
Yeah.
I believe that's the only player. So, I mean, to have 2 starters return in Ivicic and Boswell is pretty exciting. And some other news, we have added a 7'2" Arkansas center who might sound familiar, Zvonimir Ivicic, Big Z, Tommy's twin brother. So he was at Kentucky with Coach K and then transferred to Arkansas when Calipari went to Arkansas. And now he's transferring to Illinois, presumably to be with his brother and to win a national championship. We've also added a 6'9" forward, David Mirkovic from Montenegro. So we're trying to acquire as many European players as we can, and so far we are excelling at that goal. Mm-hmm. So another player, David, always welcome on the podcast as well. Pat, any of these news droppings getting you excited?
Oh, 100%. I'm kind of just salivating at the idea that we could have, I don't know, David finds his way on the starting lineup. We get Big Z out there. Our big rotation could be absolutely insane. We got 2 7-footers.
That's a big rotation. Big
6'9"
Z, T, and
forward.
Big D. Come on now.
All European players. That would be a very intimidating lineup.
Yeah, so hopefully next year we are DTZ down to Zvonimir. Hopefully we are. That's what I think that's just going to be a trend that's going to go on
Now,
moving forward.
Connor, I got one more question for you. For Big Z going from Europe, then going to Arkansas.
Europe, yeah.
And then
Going from Europe.
and then going to Illinois in 2 years. What do you think is going to rank? Now, is Ivasic from Lithuania? Is he from, where is he from? I apologize. Croatia. So he went from Croatia to Arkansas to now Illinois. I mean, he's getting a bad representation of what the United States has to offer by going to Champaign, Illinois, and Arkansas. I mean,
And Kentucky, 3 kind of similar. You're playing the same instrument in all 3 of those kind of places, if I'm being honest.
Big Z, there's other things out there if you ever want to go check out other places, to set us up.
Go to the U, baby.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you should stay with Illinois. It's going to be a great time.
Man, those are some big twins.
Big twins, especially us being 2 twins who are around 6 feet tall. Imagining 2 other sets of twins who are a foot and an inch taller than us. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. All right, well, that's all the twin talk that we're going to do here. So we're going to move on now to the Chicago Bulls news. So the Chicago Bulls play-in tournament is going on right now. Pat, you alluded to it earlier. The Atlanta Hawks were just finished playing the Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic took care of business. It was fun watching Wendell Carter have a great game for the Orlando Magic. RIP Wendell Carter. But before we get to that, let's just talk some general Bulls news. Bulls are currently faced with major injuries before their play-in tournament game. Lonzo Ball, believe it or not, is not expected to be available. He played 35 regular season games after making an awesome return from a serious knee injury that he had for about 2.5 seasons, which was great. But the problem is that he suffered a wrist sprain in October where he missed 14 games and then re-aggravated it and missed the last 21 games. So this Lonzo Ball guy, fresh off of that Buzzball release of releasing the Buzzball drink, was pretty exciting. Can't really stay on the court right now. Kind of been the story of his career. Josh Giddey is also questionable with a forearm injury that has been nagging him, but he is expected to play. I think it's because of the dog inside of him that will put him onto the court. Trey Jones is also in a walking boot, will certainly not play. It's going to be tough to play on the walking boot. Not a lot of traction on the bottom of the boot. Injuries plaguing the Chicago Bulls right now, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in the play-in tournament.
From doing our review of the preview of this game, people were not really emphasizing these injuries. Obviously, we've been playing without Lonzo for a long time, but I mean, him and Kobe White have single-handedly resurrected this team after the All-Star break. And the fact that he is questionable and this has been a nagging injury for the whole season that is now getting worse, that is a pretty serious injury that I'm sure he will play through, but
yeah, that is true. We'll get to it later. But before we get to that, I just want to hit on something real quick. Now, Pat, can you read the review of the week? Can you pull up the review of the week this week? Oh, there isn't one. And yet another week goes without a review of the week. I'll remind you, J-Bone K-Bone wrote a review on February 24th, 2025. It has now been over a month since we've received a review. We're asking anybody out there, please, if you're enjoying this show, please leave a review. And you could be featured on this podcast. We have growing numbers. We have exciting guests in the pipeline right now. Great content. 2 great pieces of short-form content every week. This is your chance to show some appreciation for the show that we have. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Unless, Pat, you want to hop in there.
It just makes you think maybe that, we need some, we want this segment to continue. It might need a shot in the arm from 2 co-hosts. Maybe need to,
well, the problem is I don't think you can write multiple, I think you need new Apple IDs to leave multiple Apple podcast reviews.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, we got to figure out a creative way to flood the reviews.
Yeah, I'm going to start make some new CastBox accounts. All right, well, moving on, away from the review of the week, before I start crying, we'll move on to the meat and potatoes of this podcast, previewing the Bulls play-in tournament. Now, the Bulls will be playing against the Miami Heat. That's the high level. Here's another point. 20 out of 30 teams in the NBA technically make the playoffs now with this new play-in tournament style. That's wild. 5 of the teams, including the Heat, Bulls, Hawks, Kings, and Mavs, they all have losing records, and they have a chance to play in the playoffs through the play-in tournament. I don't know how I feel about that. The NFL, when it expanded to 17 playoffs per conference, that really lowered kind of the level of play that was there in the playoffs. Also, the NFL having the division champion always making it. It was weird when somebody from the NFC East would make the playoffs with a losing record. It's weird now that 5 teams in the NBA are making the NBA playoffs with a losing record, right? Am I crazy to believe that?
No, 100%. Sure. I think football might be a little bit different. Any given Sunday, a team could just get hot and play really well for 1 week or 4 weeks and make a deep run. And sure, the play-in tournaments are single games and not series, but, it seems like we're just kind of delaying the inevitable. I mean, look, Bulls have been in the play-in games 2 years. Both times we were in the play-in tournament, I didn't think, wow, here's the start of our deep playoff run. I was
like, playoff run is a brewing.
Yeah, I was like, okay, here's just one more game I can watch, and then we'll lose, right? It just seems like a lazy excuse to squeeze a little bit more money out of TV contracts for, probably not great basketball.
Okay, well, let's zoom in a little now. So the Chicago Bulls, ever heard of them, will face off against the Miami Heat. The winner will move on to play the Atlanta Hawks. Funny enough, the Bulls are 3-0 against the Heat this year, including a recent game in April 9th where we won 119 to 111. Josh Giddey played incredible in that game. That was where Eric Spoelstra talked about the high-octane level of basketball that we play. So people say it's hard to beat a team twice. It's even harder to beat a team 3 times. How hard is it to beat a team 4 times? I think we're going to find out. But the game will be played in Chicago at the United Center. Right now, the Bulls are listed at minus 115 and Miami is listed at minus 105. You might be saying, wow, why are both of them listed at minus odds? You'd say Vegas is predicting that this game will be very close, basically a pick 'em. Per ESPN, we are given a 60% chance to win this game. I think overall, though, I do believe that we have a good chance with this game. I think Miami is not the Miami teams of the past without Jimmy Butler. Still think they play good basketball. The only thing that makes me nervous is the 3 wins that we've had against Miami and Eric Spoelstra, frankly, being a much better coach than Billy Donovan. I would say Miami is a more talented team probably than the Bulls, but exciting nonetheless to see this going on, right?
Oh, absolutely. Incredibly excited. I will say this is probably the most excited I've been about a Bulls team since I think my freshman year of college, when the Bulls, for a very brief time, I believe, were first in the Eastern Conference. When we
Say their name.
When
Say
we had
their name.
The Balzac with DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, and Vooch, we were absolutely insane. So this I will say is the most excited I've been about a team since then. But yeah, we'll get into it later. I do predict the Bulls winning this game. I will say the Heat have had a very up and down season marked by the drama that was trading Jimmy Butler midway through the season. And I feel like this season especially really revealed the off the court issues between Spoelstra and Butler, the conflict that they had. And I think that drama has led to a lot of real roller coaster season for the Heat. But unfortunately, towards the end of the season, they are looking much better than they have in the previous weeks. They seem like they're getting hot, right when the Bulls are also getting hot. The one thing the Heat have on their side is playoff experience, whether with coaching with Adebayo and Tyler Hero, all have pretty extensive playoff runs, obviously making a finals run 2 years ago, I believe, in 2023. Mm-hmm. That is definitely something that is going to show tomorrow because the Bulls have next to no playoff experience. So, I don't know. We'll see how that factors in.
It's crazy. Frankly, I feel like the Bulls and the Heat own the play-in tournament, at least in the East. We always play in the play-in tournament, and we always play the Heat in the play-in tournament. If I'm not mistaken, the Heat have beaten us twice in the play-in tournament, right?
The only times we've played in the play-in tournament, we play the Heat, and we've lost both times.
I feel like the Atlanta Hawks are another team that's constantly just in the play-in tournament. These teams all kind of have Arturas running their teams, just all kind of the same.
One thing, just looking at the playoff bracket right now, just something that I think is interesting to point out is the Detroit Pistons are a 6 seed right now, and the Magic 7 seed, and the Clippers 5 seed. 3 teams there that I think have been really, really bad for, Pistons, how long have they been bad for? Like 20 years, I think, right? Magic, for so long, we see them have so many top draft picks, and you just think, wow, it's never going to work out. And finally, everything's coming together, and they seem like potentially the next OKC team.
How crazy is the rest of the layout, though? The Cavs and the Thunder are being the number 1 and number 2 teams. Like, that's pretty crazy, especially the Cavs. Both of these teams, I feel like, are not the main media focuses that we have here, right? It's not the Lakers, right? And it's not the Celtics. Pretty crazy to see these two very young teams, especially the Thunder, two very young teams have so much success. And the Cavs were incredible this season.
Unbelievable.
And the Nuggets, the 4 seed, right? I feel like the Nuggets were always the number 1 seed in the West. It feels like things are very much changing. And how about the Rockets? The Rockets, the number 2 seed in the West? Crazy. I mean, this is a big landscape. Anthony Edwards, the 6 for the Timberwolves, too. Clippers making in there as well. I think this is a very interesting. The Knicks being the 3 seed, this is a very different bracket than we typically have, not being ruled by, the teams like the Nuggets, the Bucks, the Warriors, right? I feel like this is a very different landscape that we have going on.
100%. And the Lakers, I believe, are the oldest team in the NBA right now, have really defied all expectations this season, hiring JJ Redick as their coach. I'm very excited to see what they do. I mean, get Bronny James out there, give him 35 minutes. I mean, we'll see what happens. But in all seriousness,
see how much Bronny can handle this playoff tournament, I think. Playoffs go through Bronny. Let's go. All right, moving on. Let's get into the specifics here. Let's start off with the Miami Heat. As Pat has alluded to, have struggled since trading Jimmy Butler. They had mid-season struggles, but they have finished strong, finishing 6 out of 4 in their last 10 games. As we mentioned before, they love the play-in tournament. In 2023 and 2022, they competed in the playoff tournament, both times beating the Chicago Bulls. Funny enough, they were able to make a playoff run in 2023 so deep that they lost in the NBA championship to the Nuggets. They swept the number 1 seed Bucks after being the play-in team, which is incredible. You just saw the determination that Jimmy Butler and the rest of the team had in winning this tournament. It was really impressive. So they own the play-in tournament. But currently, this is a different team. As we mentioned before, no Jimmy Butler. As a result, they're led by 2 young Kentucky players, Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. Hero, playing great basketball right now. Got a new haircut, shaved all the hair off his head, averaging 24 points right now, 5 rebounds and 5.5 assists. Andrew Wiggins averaging 19, 4, and 3. And Bam Adebayo averaging 18 points, 9.5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Now, Bam's stat line, though, does not reflect his true superpower being a elite defender. Bam was 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year voting last year. 2024, he's been an all-defensive first team. He is an incredible defensive player for the Miami Heat. That is where he makes his hay, is on the defensive side of the basketball. They got a bunch of other role players here, though, for the Miami Heat. Duncan Robinson, former Michigan Wolverine. Jaime Jaquez, UCLA Bruin, great player. They have a lot of talent on this team. And in general, a lot of these players kind of represent what you talked about with Spoelstra and his culture, this idea of Heat culture, which I think is very interesting. Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, they run a different program than what you see in the NBA, right? When you think about like the Bucks, who fired their head coach a season after winning an NBA championship. You think about the Lakers constantly going through coaching changes, right? Every team has turnover at the coaching position all the time, except you think about the Miami Heat. And yes, Eric Spoelstra has been an incredibly impactful and successful coach, but he's been coaching, I believe he's the longest tenured coach in the NBA right now. He's been coaching since like the early 2010s, right? He was the one coaching LeBron when LeBron was on the Heat, right? And this idea of Heat culture, Pat Riley has defined it. The Heat will be the hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, unselfish, toughest, meanest, nastiest team in the NBA. This is defined by unreal conditioning. Pat Riley instilled a body fat percentage requirement for all players on the team, intense conditioning, and intense buy-in from all of the players. Spoelstra will carve out a role for you on the Heat, and it's your job to buy into it, whether that's riding the bench or being the face of the franchise. You need to buy into the role that you were given. I think this is really interesting to watch Heat basketball kind of form. Or I think a lot about Caleb Martin. He's not on the team anymore, but some of these players that aren't the most talented players, but they come to Miami and have this success that they have here, right? I think Caleb Martin is a great example. They've had point guards in the past who have been not that talented of players. Even Duncan Robinson is a great three-point shooter, or Max Strus is like a good three-point shooter, but you wouldn't think of these guys being somebody you build a championship team around. But you have these players, even Jaime Jaquez, right? You have these players who are just able to buy into the culture and create this product that is Miami Heat basketball. I think it's really interesting to look at. But as you mentioned, Pat, it does lead to conflicts with players, especially a player like Jimmy Butler. He's a hot-headed player. He's a controversial player. He's played on many different teams throughout his NBA career. He's a guy who is wholly himself in the NBA, right? And it's clear to see that he has had conflicts with Eric Spoelstra because of this training regimen. You think about having conflicts with Tom Thibodeau at the Bulls, right? For another strict practice regimes that they had. Kind of similar here. But as a whole, Heat culture was not something that I knew a whole lot about before this podcast. But reading it now and researching now, it makes sense. And it's something that you can see so clearly in the way that they play the game of basketball. To have the drive to be a lower seeded team in the playoffs and make a deep run to the NBA championship. You think about some teams that we've had with the Bulls, like when the D Wade and Rajon Rondo Bulls limped into the playoffs and got our asses kicked by the Milwaukee Bucks. You think about that team versus a 8-seed Miami Heat team. The difference is clear, right? So that's Heat culture. Another fact we're going to throw in here. Since the NBA trade deadline, the Heat have ranked 25th in points per game at 110. Kind of see the Jimmy Butler effect, but it's the last point we're going to head on for the Heat. Let's move on to the Chicago Bulls. The reason you guys are here, what you guys are really interested in learning about. So those Chi-Town Bulls, currently red hot, have won 13 of our last 16 games, 10 of our last 13. Cooper Flagg, never heard of him. Top 5 pick, didn't even want it. We're here for the NBA play-in tournament. We recently had a 119 to 111 home run over Miami. We've been 17-10 since the All-Star break. Maybe it's watching Modest Buzelis have a subpar performance at the dunk contest that lit a fire under all our asses, but we've been playing great freaking basketball in Chicago right now. We are second in points per game, 23rd before the All-Star game, third in rebounds per game, first in pace of play. Eric Spoelstra mentioned this before. 14th in offensive rating, all right, 10th in defensive rating, 10th in net rating, and 9th in turnover percentage. All of those values were pretty much worse before the All-Star break. The people who are contributing the most to this is obviously our 3-star players that we have here, which is Josh Giddey, Kobe White, and Nikola Vucevic. But also, the emergence of Modest Buzelis cannot be understated. He's been playing good basketball, and his role for this team has definitely increased since the All-Star break and just over the length of this season. It's been very exciting to watch him grow, and exciting to see, after last year, us seemingly hit on a pick that is making a real impact right away. Not spending time just dicking around in the G League, right? We do have some injuries, as I mentioned before. Trey Jones, who cares, is in a walking boot. Lonzo Ball is also probably out. But the Giddler is probably going to play despite that forearm injury. I think that's the biggest thing that we need here. Josh Giddey, as we mentioned before, he's 6'8". He's big as shit. He's a great shooter. Very important part of our team. In his 3-game against the Heat, he is averaging 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists per game. You heard that right. This guy is averaging a triple-double against the Miami Heat. Man, he loves Miami. He loves playing the Heat. Also, he's shooting 60% from the field and 53% from the three-point line. The dude has a clip against the Miami Heat. Since the All-Star break, he's been averaging 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists per game. He's almost averaging a triple-double since the All-Star break. He is playing phenomenal basketball, as we've highlighted before. So far, Josh Giddey, since the trade of Alex Caruso, RIP, we love you, man. Always welcome on the show. But Josh Giddey has had a fantastic season for the Chicago Bulls. And yeah, with how well Josh Giddey is playing, the Heat are going to have to make adjustments. Maybe they'll even move Bam, who plays that 4 and 5 role for the Heat, up to guard Josh Giddey. Would be interesting to see the defensive adjustments that they make.
Now, what's crazy here, Connor, do you know how tall Bam is, if you were to guess?
6'9".
Correct. Right on the money. Bam is 6'9". Josh Giddey is 6'8". So, you'd think, a center guarding a guard, that sounds insane. But the size difference is negligible. I think that really speaks to how big Bam plays defensively. We talked about he was 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year this year. The 2 people in front of him were Rudy Gobert and Victor Wembanyama, 2 people that are at least 7'1". Wemby is 7'3", I think. For Bam to be 6'9" and be that much of an impact defensively is absurd, just how physical and how big he is. But yeah, Giddey playing the Heat beforehand, I think, you have your Tyler Heroes, Duncan Robinsons, Davion Mitchell was guarding him also, just small guys that couldn't really hang with Giddey. So it would be unique to move Bam onto him, but it might be necessary with how well he has been playing.
And that kind of hits on the fact of it's hard to beat a team multiple times. It's hard to watch Josh Giddey score 20 points on you every game without eventually switching your best player onto him or double teaming him, 100%. Right? I feel like you're going to see the Heat make adjustments, and Bam might be the adjustment for the Miami Heat. Mm-hmm. Now, Pat, you've outlined some keys to victory here. I want to hit on them right now. So number 1, key to victory by Pat Cunningham is a 3-point battle. The Bulls currently score 40% of their points from three. That's the fourth highest in the NBA, and we're shooting about 37% from the three, which is ninth best in the NBA. Coming from an Illinois basketball fan, where we would shoot the number one three-pointers in the league and would be one of the worst three-pointing shooting teams in the country, it's very inspiring and exciting to see us shoot well from the three. We very, very much have a diversified lineup of shooters with Kevin Huerter, we acquired from the Kings trade, Kobe White, and Josh Giddey. Manas and Vucevic can also shoot it from the three-pointer as well. As we talked about it before, on that draft profile we did of Matas Buzelis, his three-pointing shooting was a huge emphasis, and I think we've all been pleasantly surprised how he's been able to shoot it this season. So the Bulls' three-point percentage is 34.5, second in the NBA, or second worst in the NBA. That means we are very good at defending the three-point line. And what's interesting, though, is that Miami shoots the rock from three at about middle of the NBA, right? They shoot it about 13th in the NBA, defend the three-point line about a 37%, right? So 10th best in the league. So they are pretty good at defending the three and okay at shooting it, right? So it's going to be interesting to see a team that is solid at defending the three, how they will play the Chicago Bulls. But I agree, Pat. It seems like the three-point battle is going to be what defines it defines the NBA right now, but I think it's going to play a big role in this Miami Heat Chicago Bulls basketball game.
I mean, our second point is the turnover battle. Like, saying winning the three-point game in the turnover battle, that's going to determine literally every basketball game at every level, right? Three-pointers are everything. What makes the Bulls unique this season, especially following that All-Star break, is our pace of play and how explosive we are and how good of a three-point team we are compared to all the other teams in the NBA. Like, we stand above the rest. I think for the Heat, if you are a Heat fan, you need to stop us shooting the three. We have no problem with the three. We're very good at defending the three, and the Heat are not very good at shooting the three, right? They need to come and stop us. We want to be the team that is on the attack.
We are the one who knocks. You want to be the one laying the boom. All right, you talked about it, but let's move on to the next key to victory from Pat Cunningham / Mixed Sources. It is turnovers. The Bulls are averaging 15.7 fast break points per game. That is the fourth best in the NBA. We play fast, high-octane basketball over here in the Windy City. We are 28th in forced turnovers per game, though. That is bad. Am I right about that?
Yeah, no, 100%. So we are 28th in forced turnovers, but fourth in fast break points. What do you think that tells you, Connor? What does that tell you about how we are scoring our fast break points?
Off of rebounds, probably?
Yeah, we get the board, we get the defensive rebound, and we just start running. You know, I think about the tournament, Michigan State this year, right? When they get the ball, they are inbound and they are running down the court. We are a very fast team. I mean, we're not going to force a lot of turnovers. So the Heat, you're going to give them to us. We're going to make you pay. But even without those turnovers, you're going to have to get back on defense fast.
And Pat, you remember this. You get the board, and you look. What do you look for as soon as you get the board in your hand? Outlet pass. Outlet pass.
Yes.
That's good basketball right there. Three-man weave. We do this in elementary school, middle school, and high school. It's nice to see that the same fundamentals are being applied in the NBA. Yeah, turnover battle, you got to win it. It's hard to win in the NBA. It's hard to win in any sport when you're turning the ball over all the time, even in the NFL, in the NBA as well. Last one. The Miami Heat cannot hold a lead. They cannot handle the heat of a lead in the NBA. They have a 33.3% win percentage in the clutch. The 5-point games within 5 minutes left. So they're winning at about a third of the time. Or in other words, 2/3 of the time in a close game, they lose, right? The clutch factor, the stadium pulse, the, ice in their veins is not there, right? And for a team called the Miami Heat, it makes sense, right? But I think these clutch moments for the Heat is going to be a very key point. The Bulls have a 50% win percentage, 16th in the NBA, in these same 5-minute, 5-point games, right? So neither of the teams are great playing in the clutch, right? Miami Heat are certainly worse. So I think the main thing that you want to take away from this is that the Bulls just have to keep it close, right? We have to keep it close through 4 quarters and just make sure that we're still within range when we get to that 5-minute point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in all of these games, the 3 games that the Heat have already played the Bulls, the Heat have held significant leads going into the fourth quarter. In 2 of them, and I believe in the first quarter of our last game, they at one point had 11-point lead. But I believe in the first 2 games, they had 8 or 9-point leads going into the fourth quarter and blew them throughout by the end of the game, right? Connor, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the stat of being good in the clutch as it relates to sports? Do you think that that is a legitimate statistic, or do you think that is kind of a pseudo fake stat that people like to throw around?
Oh, it seems like you're leading me down a path here.
Well, I guess last episode I also mentioned Moneyball and their process with doing a lot with a little. Obviously, this is baseball versus basketball, so different sports and different factors. But the managers discovered that when you analyze every single player, when it comes to like those quote unquote clutch moments where like bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, they found that no player, all stars or regardless, showed to be significantly better in those clutch moments than anybody else. Everybody performs just about the same when the lights are brightest, which made them realize like that was a huge selling point with a lot of these like big name players was, oh, they're super clutch in playoffs in big time moments. And through their statistics, they figured out that like that is just total BS, at least in relative to baseball, right?
I will say, as a football fan, I think that there are definitely clutch and unclutch players. We saw Justin Fields be literally the worst fourth quarter quarterback in the league last year, right? And maybe that was just statistics working out that way, but as a guy who watched every Justin Fields game, I felt like I was literally watching a guy who was bad at playing in clutch moments, right? And Caleb Williams, watching him play in the fourth quarter, I feel like I can point to moments of saying he is playing well when it matters most. Mm-hmm. I agree with your point, though. I could see in a sport like baseball where you could extrapolate too much. I think in basketball, right, you can definitely see moments of level-headed, right? You think of that Duke game, right, where they have Zion James, right, inbounding the ball, like terrible inbound pass, turnover, right? Or you think of like Virginia. You remember that Virginia tournament with Kyle Guy making those 3 free throws, right?
Right.
There's some of these clutch moments in basketball where you can see like sometimes a player gets to the line and the light is too bright for them, right? They're just not clutch, right? I feel like for baseball, though, maybe a different topic, but I do agree that it is an interesting point, Pat. An interesting topic of conversation, maybe worth an episode in itself. All right, let's move on here. Pat, straight up, give me your prediction right now.
I would not have suggested to make this episode if I didn't think the Bulls were going to win this game. I think Bulls, one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. We already said second in points per game following the All-Star break. These guys are red hot. Now, this is barring Josh Giddey plays. Josh Giddey doesn't play. I don't know what the heck is going to happen. But
I'll eat my hat.
Yeah, I think Bulls win this game by 8 points. I say now, ironically, we're recording this on April 15th. Game is going to take place April 16th. Hopefully, we have the episode out before we tip off.
That would suck.
But I do predict the Bulls are going to win by 8 points. I think it's going to be 122 to 114. 114 to 122. Book it. God, that's a high-scoring game. How about 110 to 102? How about that? I like that better.
How about that? Well, that's going to do it. Just kidding, guys. I'm going to give my prediction. Hold the phones. I know you guys were writing in. I'm going to predict the Chicago Bulls are going to win this game as well. Who would I be? How could I call myself a Chicago Bulls fan if I didn't predict that we win this game? Now, will we win this next game? That's another topic. You have to tune in next time when we make our second round preview. But I do think the Bulls are going to win this game. I think vibes are up right now. I think we're playing good basketball, high-octane basketball, and I think we have the makeup to make at least a somewhat deep play-in tournament run, at least winning one game. So I'm going to predict 113 to 109, a 4-point victory for Chicago Bulls, and we go dancing into the second round of the play-in tournament.
Now, what happens after if we win this game? I guess we didn't explain what happens after other than the Hawks. So we will play the Atlanta Hawks, who looked horrendous today against the Magic. Trae Young actually got ejected, I think, for something. But then if we beat the Hawks, we will then play the number 1 seed Cavs, who fans of the pod will remember that LeBron James on the Cavs absolutely owns the Chicago Bulls. But hey, I will say this is the most momentum the Bulls, I think, have gone into a playoff game in maybe 10 years, I think, 8 years maybe, like certainly since we got Zach LaVine. Like, this is the first time where we are really coming in. We are the team to beat right now. It's going to be really embarrassing if we get smoked tomorrow, but I am confident we're going to win this game. And I think we beat the Hawks too.
How about that? And I think we beat the Cavs. I think we go advance to the next round.
And win the finals.
NBA champion. WNBA and NBA champions in Chicago. There we go.
Who says no?
All right. Well, what a story. That's going to do it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode, I know you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm just going to say, I know you guys enjoyed this episode. Please, regardless, share it with a friend. If you enjoyed this conversation about the Chicago Bulls, I'm sure you know some other person in your life who would also enjoy our conversations about the Chicago Bulls or any other Chicago sports. Please follow us on all social medias. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. We also have an email if you're interested in business inquiries. We're putting out good content week in and week out, and we're just waiting for you guys to consume it. Please leave a review as well on Apple Podcasts or wherever you consume your podcasts to be featured on the show. But if I don't have anything else, if you don't have anything else to say, Pat, I will say bear down and Bulls down. How about that?
Bear down. See red.
See red. There you go. All right, woo!
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Chicagolandians. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you want more Chicagolandians content, you can find us everywhere at Chicagolandians.